Maximus the Fourth here, guys. So, just for the sake of my algorithm not getting messed up, because my channel is predominantly soda and eating videos, mukbangs, I got this here, and this is going to be a video, not like really any other video I've done. For those of you that have been following me very closely for a while, you guys know that I lost my grandfather last year in 2023 on November 11th. And I miss my grandfather so much. I seriously, last week, I was struggling a lot. Like Friday and Thursday, and even today being Monday, the first day of the week, or the second day of the week, I just find myself breaking down and just bawling my eyes out because I just miss him so much. My grandfather, he wasn't like any other person on this earth that you could ever meet at all. And when I say he was the most meaningful, influential person on this planet, it really is not an understatement. You take my buddy DJ Glowing Ice that had a really crappy grandfather. It's unfortunate that some people don't have good grandparents like DJ Glowing Ice with his grandfather, but my grandfather, it was just the exact complete opposite. I'm going to talk more about my grandfather, but this is Canada Dry Ginger Ale, probably the most popular ginger ale that people know of, and there's 230 calories in this bottle, and the ingredients reads carbonated water, high fructose corn syrup, and less than 2% of ginger extract, natural flavors, citric acid, sodium benzoate, which is a preservative, and there's caramel color, and is produced under the authority of the Dr. Pepper 7-Up Incorporation's 6425 Hall of Fame Lane, Frisco, Texas, 75034. Held by the 2022 Dr. Pepper 7-Up Incorporations. Let's open this thing up. I actually used to drink ginger ale with my grandfather quite a bit. This exact kind, in fact. When my grandfather first died, it didn't hit me as hard as it is right now. And it's because I think there's a lot of people out there that I knew needed the comfort. Like my mom, Nana, my aunt, and man, it's been over 5 months now since he passed away, and just dealing with the burden of despair for missing him so much. Not even despair, just I'm very blessed that I have my wife, my beautiful wife, and my son, but my grandfather, as a 31-year-old man, was in my life. I haven't even turned 32 yet, so he was in my life all 31 years of my life. And you don't really, how do you process it? You don't really, you know that your loved ones are going to die one day, and it happens all the time. For instance, you take ASMR Ral, he lost his mom, I think it was last year. And man, I just feel so much for him. I couldn't imagine losing a parent at 31 or 37, 38. But it's so hard because you know that your loved ones are going to die one day. But when it actually happens, you start thinking, well, I'm going to see him again one day in heaven, but just knowing that I'm never going to see my grandfather ever again in this life, and we'll only see him again in the afterlife, which will be amazing. Sometimes it is quite overwhelming to bear. And my grandfather, he taught me everything really that I know. The reason why I'm such a hard worker is because of him. The reason why I wrestled in middle school and high school was because of him. The reason why I was able to overcome so much anxiety, being scared of my own shadow as a kid, was because of him signing me up for wrestling. My brother, and is for that matter too. My grandfather was the biggest stand-up guy you could have ever known. All of his flaws were good. And I say that because he was a man that had a few bad habits. I mean, let's face it, a lot of us will use profanity from time to time. I try very hard not to, but most of the time, if his bad habits were going off, it was because he was passionate or upset. And I'll tell you guys a little story about my grandfather. I think when he was 17 years old, he worked for this burger joint company. I don't know the name of it, but it was owned by a Jewish guy. And this guy was very uptight, always very stern about everything. And my grandfather noticed one day that he was cooking these burgers, because that's what he did as a young guy working at a burger shop. He didn't do that forever, obviously. He went on to become a car salesman and was even nationally ranked because he was such a good car salesman. But my grandfather, he had this hamburger meat and he was cooking it up. And he noticed there was this green juice that was oozing out of it, and it smelled kind of bad. And he goes up to his boss, this Jewish guy, and says, "Hey, man, these hamburgers, I don't know if I should be cooking these. These look bad." He's like, "Oh, no, just cook them, cook them. Oh, no, just cook them." So my grandfather brings it to his attention again and says, "Look, man, I really don't know that I should be cooking these. These look bad." "Oh, man, oh, cook them. Just cook them. Don't worry about it. Oh, just cook them." Shuts my grandfather down again. And then, again, for the third or fourth time, I think the third time, my grandfather says, "Man, I really don't think we should be serving these burgers to these people. I think there's people that are going to get sick." Again, "Oh, no, just cook them. Oh, just cook. Oh, no." So the story goes on. My grandfather, he has an unshakable anxiety over these rotten burger patties. And he's like, "Look, man, I don't think we should be serving these things. They look bad." And the guy's like, "Oh, you son of a bitch. Oh, just cook them. Oh, just cook them, you son of a bitch. Oh." My grandfather, after being verbally abused by this Jewish burger owner enough times, he finally had enough. What he did is he took a hamburger patty and he took a freshly cooked hamburger off of the grill and put it on the bun because it wasn't going to burn his hand, and he put a slice of cheese on top of it. He went over to the Jewish guy, stuffs the burger on his head, and says, "F you." And the guy's like, "Oh, you son of a bitch, get the F out of here. Oh, get out of here. I will turn you in." My grandfather's like, "I will turn you in. You're serving this rotten meat to these people. They're gonna get sick." My grandfather could have gone to jail for that. He lost control. That's definitely a form of assault because he burned the guy's head and he was bald. But that guy, he knew that if he were to rat my grandfather for that, and my grandfather counter ratted him saying this guy was serving rotten meat, he knew that they would have shut down his restaurant and he would have been completely out of business. So my grandfather, he would get himself into trouble at times, but that is an example of a story of him doing something that he probably should not have done, but he got away with it because he was such a good man. And the fact that he stood up to that business owner, a uptight Jewish bloke, and just, I'll turn you in. You're trying to serve raw meat to these people. The guy knew that his restaurant would have been shut down. And so when I think back on stories like that my grandfather shared with me, my grandfather was larger than life. There was nobody out there on this entire planet that I knew that was a better man than he was. And there's so many other stories that I can share about him. I know earlier I said I would, but today I just logged on because I wanted to share this with you guys, and it's been a struggle. I miss my grandfather very, very much, and I really wish that he was still here to kind of help cheer me on along the way. But at the same time, I know that he had a really good run. 83 years old is not a short life by any means. And my grandfather, it's amazing that he lived that long, because when he was 17, he first started smoking. He was born in 1940. So that was in World War II, in the beginning of World War II, when smoking was big, when smoking was being advertised as something that was good for you. So my grandfather, he smoked most of his life, all the way from like 17, and I want to say when he was about 60 years old is when he stopped. I kid you not, I remember when my brother and I were on a trip with him to Sacramento, out of nowhere, after he'd quit smoking for about 5 or 6 years, he turned to Parker and I, he said, "Boys, I haven't had a cigarette for 5 or 6 years." And he just felt like he needed one, so he lit the cigarette, smoked it right in front of Parker and I's eyes, and he was open about it. He wasn't hiding it, and instantly he was hooked again. And I think he went on to smoke for another 5 or 6 years, and then he quit when he was about 67 or 8, I want to say. I could be off. But he never smoked again for the rest of his life. He had quit smoking for about 15 years. And there was some other habits that my grandfather had that I won't go into. But the smoking, for instance, I mean, someone to smoke for most of their life, to be able to live that long, was a miracle. And my grandfather had had a heart attack even when he was in his mid-40s, and they had to put stents in his heart so he could survive. So honestly, he had borrowed like almost 40 years extra of life, and just how much he impacted me and all my family. It's just my family and I. It's just unbelievable to think about, and I don't think there's a single day that will ever go by that I don't miss him. And I I just didn't know that I could love somebody as much as I loved my grandfather. And I didn't know that it was even possible to miss somebody as much as I miss him. But that's it, you guys. That's my update. I just miss my grandfather so much. And if there's anybody that's watching this video that knows what it feels like to lose such a meaningful person in your life. Just know that you're not alone. And feel free to comment down below. I want to give a few shout outs to my mom, to my aunt, to my cousin Neil, to my grandmother, to my twin brother Parker Goodwin, my cousin Megan, my little sister, my little brother Mason, even my wife. I know how much each and every last one of you guys miss Papa. And it hasn't been easy. And I just have to thank God every day that I have the strength to get out of bed and go to work, because I'm not crippled physically from missing my grandfather. I just have moments where just the thought of never seeing him again, sometimes it's just more than I can handle. So that's it, you guys. No promoting, self-promoting or anything today. I just wanted to pop in and share you guys with my thoughts on my grandfather. I'll catch you guys on the flip side. Always keep your head up if you're going through something rough, no matter what. At the end of the day, we have Jesus. Our God in heaven is never going to let us down. And for those of us that are walking with God and remembering that He sent His Son Jesus down to die on the cross to pay for all of our sins, we will have eternal life in heaven. God bless all of you, my great fans.